If you're going to live in my world, you're going to have to understand cuddle. So we'll talk about that tonight. The Freemasons' vow. How did they get a Freemason, Moose Lodge, Oddfellow Lodge, whatever lodge? So many lodges in every town in the United States, yet they're not mentioned in the scholastic history books they study in college. It's all coming down to iron processing, how you make steel out of from iron, and iron crushes all things. The movie Tron with Jeff Bridges and the remake where they that is not about computers. It's about the human immune system. More on that tomorrow morning with RJ. The education system, we've got to go over that and go over that. World War One may possibly have been Armageddon. World War II could have been the reaping after the 1,000 years. The loop. Remember this? That's why I write things down. Where's that angle that you can read it? Hey, anyway, there they are. The seven ages broke down in the last 335 years. The seven churches that deserted Paul, living in a reset loop. Those seven churches departed Paul. See the first chapter of 2 Timothy, verse 15. All of Asia has departed me, he warns in his letter to Timothy. And it seems like every 49, 50 years, there's been a reset. The last one was when they finished off all the people with the lobotomies. Seems simulated because it is scripted as a judgment. Voting this Tuesday is a sin, not unto death. That's nice. You'll be able to repent later. For the elect, all things work together for good. Not here on this earth always, or even most of the time. This world is not the faithful's final destiny. Cuddle up. If not now, later. I'm the artist Salt Paco. I'm scripted for theology by the Most High God personally. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. RJ's busy tonight. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things that I just got what I call download from the Spirit. I've been calling it that for a long time. What happens when you Google or being a Cuddle Gene? No, it's the Cuddle Gene. They showed me a picture of the peptide hormone for that's activated in the hypothalamus posterior from the pituitary. It might as well be OxyContin. People, when you cuddle, that's what your baby gets. I'm going to insist on it in my world. You're going to hang out with me. You cuddle your children. You that busy? You can't cuddle your child? Like mother, like daughter. The Bible says 3 times, like mother, like daughter. It never says like father, like son. Not once. But we know that the men are to train up their children in a way they should go. In either form, OxyContin stimulates uterine contractions to speed up the process of childbirth. That your body naturally produces OxyContin. That's the takeaway. If you don't, Hey, what? Only 1909, the first clinical use of OxyContin? You know, they were giving that away, proving to women that thought their whole lives. Those guys that do drugs are all wicked and evil, and next thing you know, they're hooked on freaking heroin. This is all a plan. It's all scripted. More on cuddling later. So everybody's getting in on the act, and the Orthodox Russian Greek Orthodox Church, you know, they think, you know, they're the victims. They don't think, you know, they want to believe in their Trinity and everything else, and that all they live on an earth that got exploded into existence by a big bang and is floating, hanging by gravity. But they even know it's the Rosicrucians that did it. They know it. It's the Freemasons. What Mr. Beard? It's like looking in a mirror.
Entity or the sun, which fertilizes the earth. And they, furthermore, because this is the degree of the Rosicrucians, right? This is the Rosicrucian, rose and cross together. This is the name of this tree, this level of initiation. And so they see in the cross here something totally unrelated, which has to do with the Egyptian idolatry. They see the cross symbolizing masculinity or the sun, which fertilizes the earth. And they see the roses, because there's an image there.
The letter G points to Genesis or generations, along with geometry and God. Well, they have a different God. Maybe we'll come back to that. I'm going to keep it open in case we do. The audio Bible, and I've highlighted, I did that. I think they're reading it. No, they did that because they're reading this part. I stopped it here for a reason. We'll find out what it is. I'm going to back it up.
The king of the south will grow strong, but one of his commanders will grow even stronger and will rule his own kingdom with great authority. After some years, they will form an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to seal the agreement. But I
think that's interesting. That's why I paused it. I was going like, the daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to seal the agreement. Okay, that daughter will not retain her position of power. Wow, I bet you that was not fun for her. Nor will his strength endure. I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit here because a lot of people wonder about that. I was trying to jump ahead, not make it bigger. What happened? It got bigger all of a sudden.
The king of the south will grow strong, but one of his commanders will grow even stronger and will
it goes
in fulfillment
on. You know, his
of the
sons
vision,
are going to stir up strife.
But to no avail, for still the end will come at the appointed.
His fortresses will rise up and desecrate the temple.
The king of the north.
They will abolish the daily sacrifice and set up the abomination of desolation. All these kings of the north and kings of the south, that already happened back then. And they're worried, well, maybe the king of the south will come in Gog and Magog. You know, when you read this, they tell you who it was, who did it, and that it was going to happen. And it was all coming down to the end of the temple. These are things that we know and things that you should accept every bit of information as it washes through your filter of. Jesus said when they talks about the abomination of desolation in Daniel, that's when he's coming back. That I was just listening to. It's always good. There's a quick tab, right?
Theory and practice.
A social democrat then takes the podium and, after outlining the complete German military collapse at the end of the Great War, war were more.
And that's what I'm calling, possibly Armageddon right now, because we don't know the history. We know they had photography. It's like my book. Remember when a group called the True Believers had to break off from the remnant? If you've read my book, that's what happened. Just because I wrote it in 2008 doesn't mean it's not. Doesn't mean I didn't figure it out then. It's just that's what the God had me write down, because the Most High scripted all this. It's not a simulation.
Marks that this is the most blatant falsehood that has been spoken in the Thuringen Parliament.
Vorwärts, the Social Democrat mouthpiece, writes, Frigg says my name is Rabbit. I know nothing and have said nothing. In contrast, his party friend Mechta.
He's getting right back to the Alice in Wonderland thing. The looking glass mirror. Our history. Henry, the year of our Ford. Henry Ford. He funded these people. And he thought they were doing the right thing. It was eugenics, baby, all the way, funded by the USA.
Loudly says what Mr. Frick, for tactical reasons, will not repeat.
This friend actually says, in reference to another verse, he and his party friends primarily understood alien and foreign forces to mean the Jews.
At this time, there is no indication that Frick has any plans to repeal the school prayer directive.
You know how that word fake, F-A-U-X, faux, it's pronounced faux Jew. That's who they're talking about, the faux Jews that they set up. Because the Jews are pretty much spread out and they're dispersed, still lost in their sins. Not that we don't know where they are, or anybody didn't know where they were. So these are all distractions. We can memorize. The war lasted, 3 years and 10 months, World War II for the United States, yet it can take up a lifetime of rabbit trails. When you look at Tron movie virus, I Googled that. Am I still sharing? Boy, it's one of those things. If I hadn't been sharing that stuff, I'm going to be like, oh man, that was a big mess up. I know. But he's got to do that family thing. We couldn't even talk we talked for a long time, but we could have talked more, but he had an emergency in his apartment. One of his beloved relatives lives in that. He fixes it and lets him live there. So, but he had to go fix it. The Tron movie virus was called Abraxas. First, it was called Halen. Was an alpha class ISO. I don't know what that means. That evolved into a computer virus. You see, the virus in the body and what they put in us and how they're trying to kill you. So if you want to, I don't know if I've seen the second Tron movie. Might have seen some of the decoding of it. Abraxas features are tall and thin, almost sickly in appearance, and his circuitry is yellow with more of a cracked design to his circuits than traditional programming circuitry. It's probably because they infected some RNA DNA in it. He wears a hooded. Oh, wait. I got to do that thing, man. Where's those? Look, I might show some. I'm showing videos in a fair use disclaimer way where I only give theological advice. I should be able to give medical advice, but I can't. You have to go see your doctor. You should listen to me, though, when I tell you to drink distilled water, because I think that you'll be blessed. And all of that other, sweat, stretch, and eat organic that I kind of cram down everybody's throat like it's the most important thing in the world. Huh. That's what I think. That is what I think. Because that's what I think God wants you to present your body like a living sacrifice. Holy. That means set apart for God. That's not what I wanted, though. Tron movie virus. Maybe I just should look up the Tron movie because we don't know enough about it. Let's go, right? We all are flooded with information. But this is a franchise that started when the Reagan was the president. And it just kept going, man. And it had all of these big stars. There's my boy, that's a serious looking guy. It's like looking in a mirror. So here we go with the pictures. Tron. Is he getting an injection? Thanks for the big picture. You know, one picture for Tron. A former Incom programmer and video game developer who runs an arcade. He gets sucked into a video game by the master controlled program. It has to do, and like I said, I might have seen the original one. I don't think I've seen the decodes. I've read essays on them. But now I know, because the way he shows me these things is that this doesn't have anything to do. And we could take it back to where did virus come from? Why does VI mean conquer in Latin? And Rus, virus. What's Rus? Basically, in your Latin and the Tartaria, it's white people. Again, with the Alice in Wonderland BS. See how I'm controlling I'm getting so much better about not cussing. So anyway, I'll learn more about this, and we're talking about it mañana in the morning. So I'm going to look you in the eye when I tell you, hold on for this. Now we're talking about the cuddling and the cuddling gene, and in my world, what are we going to allow? We're going to allow bundling. We're going to get into, there's going to be a little bit of in the next 22 years, your children are going to fall in love and want to get married because it's a sex drive, not a sex hunch. You got to keep, we want virgins, male and female. Now, bundling was a tradition of wrapping a couple together in a bed, sometimes with a board between them. I don't think that's necessarily that you need a board between them. Sometimes, but in my world, I wouldn't think that's going to be left up to the local churches. Usually as part of what I consider very important, courting behavior. And courting isn't between two people, it's between two clans, two tribes. So anyway, this tradition supposedly, they don't know, but it was common in the United States, and not, the salt of the earth came here, not only all of these other crazy religions, that evolved into the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons and the Mormons, and they already had the lost tribe of Judah living here, that when they moved over here, they're dressed like royalty. They looked like royalty. They thought they had all the answers. And there's a very strong suspicion by the theologian Do-Re-Mi that the finishing touches on their beliefs of Freemason could have been added by the tribe of Judah, living in disguise as the 5 Cherokee Iroquois nations. It's possible, but the bundling story of Ruth and Boaz slept with the sheep between them. Just don't. What we're looking for is the virgin bride, and yay, they're going to be together for the rest of their life, type of a situation. We'll talk about more. See, I'm leaving that open. I don't even know who this guy is, honestly. I saw that I had left him open. Oh, he synthesized amphetamine. That's important. That's going to be important. I'll look you in the eye and I'll ask you to your face. If you were someone who believed in organic farming, and they hadn't synthesized amphetamines, and you knew that there was a plant that they could chew, and it's proven that you won't become addicted to it, would you let them chew cocoa leaves because that's what they've done? Let's just say that you weren't a colonizer, but you're like Abraham. You moved in and you do your farming. Your cousin, your nephew, Lot, comes up and goes, hey, try this. What is it? Try it. No, what is it? They eat it. They chew it. They've been doing it for generations. And they work, and they're happy to work. And when they go home, they're happy to be home, and they chew cocoa leaves. You have two options. Let them take the cocoa leaves. Or kill them if they take the cocoa leaves. Guess what side I'm on? Guess what side I want you to be on?
The West scuttled those peace negotiations really beforehand, because Putin didn't want to go into Ukraine. And then in April in Istanbul, they did as well, which would have ended the war after a couple of months. They allied the Nord Stream bombing aspect of it. And then there's, of course, with Gaza, it's all of these other lies as well. Are we reaching a point where these lies cannot really do what they don't function except for in the West, which is essentially a captive and neutralized population? I mean, we are, whatever we think, it doesn't seem to matter anyway, because you can't really get a critical mass. But I guess internationally, do you think that the sheer amount of lying that we see, and Gaza is the most brazen example, but Ukraine is not that far behind, really. Do you think that we are reaching a point where it cannot, the edifice cannot stand anymore? I mean, we just cannot maintain this level of absurdity in the face of declining power.
Can you maintain this level of absurdity? They will. They'll find a way. They'll rabbit trail you to death. They're not prepared for what is coming at all.
I do think that, and I think that is why you're seeing more increased repression against protesters, against independent journalists, because the propaganda machine is not successful, because it's not convincing people. And in fact, I saw a recent poll, a very large proportion of the U.S. population no longer has any faith in the mainstream news. And so because they can no longer convince people, ideologically, intellectually of the rightness of what they're doing, they now have to use repression. So you see Columbia University, for example, which should be a bastion of free speech and intellectual inquiry. See the president of Columbia University ordering the NYPD to arrest and beat up her own students on campus.
And him, I think he teaches there. He's a Glober. He's in on it. They all are. Want to look you in the eye again and say, why is it Columbia University? Why is it the District of Columbia? Because Columbia is the goddess that they've put over this nation. They've chosen their Greek gods. Did you know the United States almost became the United States of Columbia? It's Minerva. It's all of their gods. This is not a joke, people. No joking. Stop it.
More than just. Well, I don't think capital has always been present. Merchants have always been present in civilization. You can see the evidence of merchants as far ago as 5,000 years. Money has been present for much, if not all, of the existence of civilization, in one way or another. And yet capital certainly hasn't. And for Marx, capital was certainly a lot more than just money, or even means of production, or even actually the workers, or even the capitalist, him or herself. Capital, for Marx, was a relation.
Yes, and he can give his whole life to communism. Somebody else can give their whole life to capitalism. They're going to be able to point out each other's flaws, and they will not be able to present the perfect human that is able to live the perfect capitalistic or communistic life, no matter how much they want to kill people for it. Now, it comes down to steel, the drama of steel. You know, they give love so that when they take it away, it hurts more. Somewhere along the line, somebody did that Bessemer process. They could turn coal into, they get charcoal, get the steel, hotter fires.
Steel, our nation's strong right arm, on the land, in the sky, on the water, for the preservation of our nation, our form of government, our American way of life. Whence comes this mighty giant called steel? Steel is the result of man's ingenuity in utilizing one of nature's greatest...
All rocks are body parts. We're made from the dust, and it includes putting these things, giving it life. You know that the DNA that you are in your body, I don't know if it's even half of the DNA, because the other 5 kingdoms of colonies, including what they call viruses and bacteria, have their own DNA, are living their own lives with their families. Some of them still marry for life, bury their dead. Some of them, their apartments are your earwax. But where would we be without this?
Converting blast furnace molten iron into steel on a quantity basis by removing the excess carbon. This was accomplished by the development of an air blast converter, of which
Like 1812?
this is one of the earliest models. This revolutionary development made possible for the first time the production of steel
It's all scripted.
on an inexpensive quantity basis.
It's going to happen.
And paved the way for the great...
For the great what? This is what the time when they want to go back and make America great again. This whole town that this is celebrating, these men go to work every day in a world that had the 1-drop rule. Black people couldn't work there. You couldn't even live in that town. You couldn't drink out of their water fountain. But we don't talk about that part. And some people think it's not important. Look at where we are now. We went to the moon. They're dead in their sins. You're never going to be able to talk to them, but you still have to tell them that Jesus Christ is God in the flesh. He came to bleed and die. He was manifest for that reason, so that he would be alive and have blood, because he provided himself as the sacrifice.
Steel age. In the modern Bessemer process, the converter is tilted on its side, and hot metal from a blast furnace is poured into it through the open top. This converter is then tilted upward, and a continuous blast of air is forced through holes in the bottom.
We just talked about how China developed a new process of making steel that is going to it's going to revolutionize it for this last half generation. I just want you to look at, not so much listen, but look at the China. This was Starford City, man. Not that part.
Revoke their right to carry weapons openly.
Well, look at that. You can buy a Derby in 1902 there in China. I see old rails, big wide roads, long sidewalks. What point of history was it really?
The development of roads and bridges, one of the first steps in the country's modernization, made it possible to lay track for
When
Western
haven't we
vehicles
lived
on
in
these
found
streetcars?
civilization?
Here, they are still drawn by horses. Some years later, the lines would be electrified.
I mean, that's an electrified car. It's being used and pulled by horses because right now they're shut down. But it's the same Starford cities. You see how I left that up? Here we go.
Orange trolleys, now electrically powered, trundled along the major downtown arteries. They had supplanted the rickshaw as rapid transit.
What did they build over? What did they actually build with their steel? Well, if it has rivets, that's in between Armageddon and the reaping, between World War I and World War II. Rivets. They didn't get down with the welding. We can track them, but their abutments and their walls and everything is still the old Star Forts.
The fish market is unrecognizable. The docks and wharves have been widened, and
That's a mud flutter, but come on. Can we can't trust, but what happens? Same thing that happened to Tokyo.
entirely destroyed.
Oh no. Look at the wall. Oh no.
The death toll was terrible. In 3 days and 2 nights, over 105,000 lives were wiped out.
Was there a tremor in the force? I mean, that is crazy. That's what's going on in Gaza right now.
In 1923, 1.5 million of the city's 2.2 million inhabitants found themselves homeless. More than 5.
That is going to happen in the United States, and it will not be this peaceful of a, 2/3 of the city's homeless. We got our houses burnt down. What are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? Where's my cuddle partner?
Leaders of corruption called for the expansion of the Japanese empire. Colonial conquest would help Japan
Look at that Star
overcome the
Force
crisis.
City.
The strange new yellow flag being waved.
That's for Manchukuo, because they were starting out colonizing like the white people. And within 20 years, 50 years, they were going to take over the world. They were going to win that simulated game of Risk to say, let's see who's the boss. Let's see who is the eugenic king. They copied the American ways. Other people have been selling drugs and colonizing for 200 years. And Japan, they showed them how to do it. I showed you how they faked an atom bomb in history to make it seem, but the roaring 20s in China, Japan, France, Germany, the United States, life is not a cabaret, old
He
friend.
was headed down a new path, escalating towards war. In 1936, a modern young student shot a whole series of films about a subject he apparently found fascinating, the Takarazuka Review.
Everybody's got to be in a community, right? So look at, party in the gay 20s.
The review, created in 1914, became a regular institution. In 1936, the show was inspired by Paris Folie. Like European entertainment from the same period, it distracted Japanese audiences from worries about the crisis and the specter of war.
It distracted them from the crisis that's coming, like this, that you'll be living through.
But a stalemate soon ensued. Despite its military superiority, the Japanese army proved incapable of controlling the immense lands it had conquered. The ashes of the first Japanese soldiers to die on Chinese soil began to return to Tokyo. The following
Oh my goodness, war sucks so bad.
ending, and its people were overwhelmed by feelings of humiliation and discouragement. Once again,
Wow. Time to rebuild.
on April 16, 1951, General Douglas MacArthur left the country and a crowd of Tokyoites waved goodbye.
And they have programmed them successfully into a baseball loving society that has no hope of maintaining their population in any way, shape, or form, or growing, but have been used, and it's just crazy. So I wanted to look at a couple of these videos that RJ sent me, and I wanted to show the one that Sergio sent about Michelle Obama, because people are getting on board with that right now. Like, oh no, it could be the Michelle Obama thing, and I'm surprised it hasn't jumped out at me, because I watched it and I'm looking at it. So just give me, it'll be just a matter of seconds right now. I am actually rolling down this methodically. It's not that one. Well, I'm going to have to do it another way. Because it's about Michelle Obama. I'll give you the background that I predicted that we'll be close to the end when Michelle Obama is being elected president and Barack Obama is going to the United Nations, and they admit, yes, she was a man, but we're in love, but we couldn't tell the truth because they're going to win that culture war. That it's not going to be changed, that, oh, no, it's not going to happen. Yes. And now that people, it does seem crazy that to them. But people have heard it here for a long time that that's what I believed and that's what I taught. And I can't believe I had so many different streams and Bible things going. Finally. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. And thank
So what
you.
people are saying is
I know I got
that there's a way that something crazy can happen when it comes to this presidency in 2024. Now, currently, we have Kamala Harris, who is the first female vice president. And so what they're saying is that it'd be easy for them to get rid of Joe Biden and replace it with her. Now, where does Michelle come into all this? So what people are saying is that Michelle Obama is going to be the one who's going to slip right up in there. As I started digging, we can go back in the archives and see that ex-presidents and ex-politicians have been out in the public.
Okay,
saying,
so talking about being out, I why aren't you mentioning that everybody knows that Michelle is a man? And that's all part of the plan. And the people that he shows are not Roger Stone, they're not good people. And they're wrong. See, this is from that Michelle Obama is going to be the president, but she's going to get the election, not Kamala Harris. Wrong. Roger Stone, in his prediction, you heard it here first. Wrong. I was saying it in 2015, and he gets the timing wrong. That the only one you don't have to worry about getting the timing wrong so far is Delray Me.
the same exact thing. So we have two videos as of right now that I want to show you. And they're from two different politicians. One was a former president. And they're both speaking about this conspiracy that is to happen in the future.
What advice would you give a young lady wanting to become president of the United States?
Well, I hope we do have.
Now, a little background. The question is, what advice would you give a lady that could be elected president? And this from a man who was not elected president, the only president that hasn't been elected either as a president or a vice president. He was appointed vice president because Richard Milhous Nixon had chosen a vice president, and I'm waiting for the Lord to provide his name to me. Was it Spiro Agnew? He got busted for banking fraud, so he had to dump him on the second term, and he chose Gerald Ford, and then he resigned a couple months later because he said, I'm not a crook, and that Watergate's a setup, damn it. And so the vice president that he just appointed became the president. And he appointed David Rockefeller as the vice president of the United States. And he's wrong. It didn't go down the way everybody's saying that he prophesied this and it was this and that. If it was true, Kamala, not Michelle, it doesn't have anything to do with that he got it right because Biden didn't die in office. And she did become the president. She's still the vice president running.
Have a young lady at some point become president of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events. Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die.
Wrong. So everybody, please stop sending me this video. And this guy, he's a knucklehead also. He's got a picture of Nixon tattooed on his back. I've heard him brag about it. Who knows what happened to this poor child when he was young?
Was from Roger Stone.
Now, as a veteran of many years in American politics, I'm going to tell you something somewhat shocking. Joe Biden will not be the nominee of the Democratic Party in 2024. Kamala Harris will briefly become president, but the only way in their party they can replace a woman of color is with another woman of color. And yes, you heard it here first. The Democratic nominee for president will be Michelle Obama.
Jumping the gun as usual. It's not like they don't listen to me or what, but they don't have the patience. They don't really believe. They think I'm just some smart guy, not getting downloads from the Most High God. That's unfortunate.
They have already rigged their primaries. The reason that they have canceled the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary is to put South Carolina, a state where a majority of...
You see, when he was saying this, none of it came true. He's just not the guy. How's it hanging, Michelle?
Martha's Vineyard and D.C., just to return to politics and life in the White House.
Well, they pretty much, the Obamas have been in politics for years. They've never really left it. They never left Washington, D.C. I make the case in my book and film, Michelle Obama 2024, that Michelle has actually been following the exact same formula that Barack did to become president. Barack was the keynote speaker for John Kerry in 2004 at the Democrat convention. Sure enough, Michelle introduced Joe Biden at the 2020 convention rather. Barack wrote 2 autobiographies before running for president. Michelle just came out with her second.
First black president? I don't think so.
Autobiographies before running for president. Michelle just came out with her second autobiography, her best-selling, Becoming, and The Light Will Carry. They're also both on Netflix. And Barack had a voter registration organization called Project Vote. Michelle's been running around the country.
Project Get Out to vote.
That there will be a great final twist in the tale of one of the most bitter elections in American history, the great American drama, which is the 2024 election. That the big prize will not go to Joe Biden, who seems to be doddering because of age and floundering because of allegations of corruption against his son and himself.
So they all got on this bandwagon, and now that, you know, this guy is simulating oral sex on stage while he's giving campaign speeches, Donald Trump is what's it called? Phoning in his part in the election. He doesn't want to have anything to do with $40 trillion debt that he'll be blamed for, because as soon as he is elected, you know, they could flip a switch. And the same thing goes with Camilla. I just don't think she doesn't see us coming. She's probably thinking that if I can become president, maybe Montel Williams will pay attention to me again, because he likes to. What did Salt and Pepper used to say? Give it to me, baby. No, wait, that was The Offspring. Pretty fly for a white guy, and I knew that. I just wanted to, because, well, why do you think the young Camilla went after such an older man? Was it her plan to sleep her way to the top? It was just all scripted. It's all scripted. It's in. When it came to me, when I was telling people that it was going to happen in 2015 in that election where Trump got elected, I was so happy that I didn't vote anymore because I had wasted 25, 30 years voting pro-life, not realizing that it was a setup, that it was going to end this way because it's scripted, that there was going to be a very narrow road. I had no idea. I had one vision. Treat everything Jesus said as true. Okay. I didn't realize what was coming, that, you know, that comforting bubble I described, you know, when the first vision of how you have to believe everything that Jesus said is true. And it's like, no problem. I'm in the power and I got it. I'll do it. The second vision, go do this, go do this. In this time in my life, you know, a lot had happened. And I was like, why don't we just have me dead now and have somebody else do it? And that's when I realized that this is scripted. God said, in the way he doesn't really talk, but you just know, it was, I'm not asking you if you want to do this. I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. And it's all come true. And it will continue to come true, whether they like it or not. Because it will always remain a flat earth nation with the golden age past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. And there are a lot of things opening up. Now, don't forget, we've got church in the morning. RJ is scheduled. You get an extra hour of sleep tonight. Don't waste it. Me and my friends are trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. And we'll